Oh, my fingers are frozen. Hey guys, Michael Kummer here, and this is the Ice Barrel, the latest addition to the Kummer Spa. Now in this video I want to tell you everything you need to know about the barrel, how long it stays cold, how cold it gets, what it costs, and everything in between. Now before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel and click on the little alert button so you get notified when I publish more videos like this. Also, I should point out, by the time you're watching this, there is likely an in-depth review up on my blog, so check that out, because I will keep updating that review based on everything I learn over the next couple of months, especially as we go into winter. Now, since you're watching this, you probably already know what the benefits of cold exposure and ice plunging or ice bathing are. So I'm not going to repeat everything, also because I have an in-depth article on the topic on my blog, and I'm going to link it down below as well. But just to cover the basics, cold exposure makes us stronger and more resilient because it puts us out of our comfort zone. It also helps with fat loss, with physical recovery, muscle recovery, physical performance, sleep. It has a host of benefits that I highly encourage you to check out in more detail if you like. So let's talk about the Ice Barrel for a little bit. The barrel here that I'm sitting in is the tan version. They also have it in black. It's about 42 inches high and it's 25 inches wide at the opening here. So that's important in terms of shoulder width. It's a little bit wider on the bottom, but up here it's 25 inches. And I'm 6 feet tall and I have fairly broad shoulders and I could easily fit in there. I'm actually somewhat kneeling right now in the barrel. I could actually dunk my head in, but I'm not going to do that right now because there is a microphone and microphones and water don't work well together. But usually when I get in, I can submerge my head into water and I perfectly fit, even being 6 feet tall. Now the barrel is made out of a special type of plastic called LLDPE, that's low linear density polyethylene. And if you've been following me for a while, you probably know that I'm not a huge fan of plastic because most plastics leach endocrine disrupting chemicals into liquids. And so I was concerned a little bit that this barrel being made out of plastic would leach some of those chemicals into the water, especially as the water warms up. But the good news is I've not found any scientific evidence that would suggest that this particular type of plastic, the LLDPE, has any endocrine disrupting activities. So the plastic is good and I'm very happy about that. The barrel is fairly thick, so it can keep the water cold for a little bit longer than if you were to use a regular rain barrel, let's say, or an old wine barrel. The barrel here comes with a lid that you can put on, obviously, when you don't use it. It also has a little bit of a base that you can put the barrel on. We're going to show that later in the B-roll. And it comes with a step stool that helps you get in and out of the barrel. It also comes with a cover, so you can cover the barrel when you don't use it, when you're on vacation, for example. The barrel holds about 105 gallons of water, and it takes approximately 20 minutes or so to fill it up. I typically just use the garden hose, and we have a whole house filtration system here, so the water that we fill into the barrel is already filtered. But in addition to that, I usually attach a charcoal filter to the garden hose to filter the water again, because there might be some stagnant water in the hose and I don't really like that. So we filter the water. That helps it stay fresh and clean a little bit longer. In terms of how much ice you need, I put in typically around 120 to 140 pounds of ice. So I go to Walmart because we don't have an ice maker, and I get between 6 and 7 20-pound bags of ice and dump them into the water. When you do that, just make sure you don't fill it up too much, because if you do, then most of the ice will actually spill over and you lose it when you get into the barrel. I've done it several times already, actually right before getting into the barrel for the review today. That happened. And so don't fill it up too much. Leave plenty of space, especially if you're a bigger dude. I weigh 205 pounds, and that takes a lot of space in the barrel, and so all of that water and ice you lose when you get in. In terms of how cold it gets, so with 140 pounds of ice that I put in here in pleasant fall weather here in Georgia, I measured approximately 37 degrees water temperature. So up here where the ice is 37, and a little bit further down towards my toes, it goes to approximately 42-45 degrees. Now of course you can mix the water a little bit, have more consistent temperature, but that's roughly the range that you will get if it's still in the mid 70s out here. You know, in winter you can probably get the water temperature further down, but at least here in Georgia right now, about high 30s is the water temperature, and that's plenty cold, I would say, especially if you stay in here for an entire review. It gets pretty cold, I can tell you. Now, again, depending on the ambient temperature, the ice or the water stays cold between a couple of hours to a couple of days. And it really depends on several factors, including the ambient air temperature and if the barrel is exposed to direct sunlight. So in our case here, I usually have the barrel a little bit closer to the house and it gets full afternoon sun. And while we still have, you know, mid 70s here during the day, the ice melts within a day or so. So it doesn't stay cold for several days in a row. Maybe in winter, or definitely in winter it will. Obviously, if you're in warmer climate like in Arizona in high summer, probably that ice is gonna be gone within a couple of hours. So it really depends a little bit on the temperature, and that also means that if you want to use the ice barrel on a daily basis, you need an ice maker, ideally, because going to the store every day and getting ice is not only inconvenient but also expensive. For 140 pounds of ice from Walmart, I pay approximately $33 or so, and so if you do that every day, it certainly adds up. And that's one of the downsides of the barrel, that you really need an ice maker to use it on a daily basis. And I'm not talking about an ice maker that comes with your fridge or freezer. You need a dedicated ice maker that produces enough ice that you can use on a daily basis. And so that increases the cost of the entire system, obviously. But the ice barrel as it is costs approximately just shy of $1,200. And that's a lot of money, but it's also significantly less than some of the fancier cold plunging solutions, like the one I have over there that has a chiller and a water filtration system and all of that. They cost thousands of dollars. So in comparison to that, the ice barrel is fairly inexpensive, and it's a good entry point into, getting your feet wet with cold plunging, pun intended. So even if you add the cost of the ice maker on top of what the barrel costs, you're still significantly lower than buying a fancy cold plunge that keeps the water cold for weeks or permanently, really, if it has a built-in chiller. So that's from a cost perspective. And in addition to pouring in ice every day or every couple of days, you also need to keep the water clean and replace the water every so often, because there is no filtration system. Of course, in winter, when the water is cold and near the freezing point, you don't need to replace it as often. But if it warms up in summer, you need to replace that water every couple of days, maybe once a week at the longest. And so that could potentially add to your water bill and to your sewer bill. Now, we here have a septic tank, so sewer cost is not an issue, and water is relatively inexpensive, so filling up the barrel every couple of days or once a week isn't really a big deal. To keep the water fresh a little bit longer, you can actually use chlorine and bromine-free treatment options. The ice barrel sells them separately. I have some for my cold plunge as well, and I just use them to keep the water fresh for longer. But yeah, you'll be replacing water, and you have to pour in ice every so often to keep the water cold and to continue using your ice barrel. Those are really the primary downsides, but on the flip side, it's significantly less expensive than some of the fancier options, and it's also safer than modifying a chest freezer that you might forget to unplug before you jump in and then you electrocute yourself. So it's a good, I guess, middle point of fancy, more expensive solutions and DIY solutions that you can build yourself. Yeah, so with that, we're gonna wrap it up because I'm freezing my butt off. It's really cold in here. I can tell you the ice barrel is plenty cold for sure. It's very pleasant to sit in here. It's not like you're air squatting and your legs are gonna be burning because you have to squat. It's very convenient. You can easily chill out, you can relax. It's convenient to get in and out. It doesn't take a lot of maintenance other than pouring in the ice. If you have an ice maker nearby, just getting a bucket or two of ice, pouring it in before you jump in is really not a big deal. Of course, if you don't have an ice maker, going to the store and getting the ice is a little bit more inconvenient. But I know some people who do that. When they come home from work, they stop by at the store, get some ice, pour it in, jump into the barrel, and they're good to go. Overall, it's a very solid product. I thought in the beginning when I got in, I might tip that barrel over by accident, but there is no way you can even move that an inch once it's full. It's super solid, it's well made. thick, high quality plastic. It's gonna last for years, I'm sure, especially if you put on the cover when you don't use it, so you know the sun doesn't make the plastic fade and all. But overall, excellent product. I really like it. With that, we're gonna wrap it up. If you liked seeing me freeze my butt off in the ice barrel, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, let me know what I could have done better. Until next time. That was the longest cold plunge I've ever done, holy moly, because what you didn't see in the video is before we started the recording, we actually recorded a segment already while I was in, and then the memory card of my camera was full, so we had to start over. So I was in there probably for 15 minutes today, and you can tell my speech is slurry and I'm shivering, but that was good. Into the sun. Into the sun.